So Bradley Beal just got traded to the Suns. If this was maybe 5 years ago, I'd jump up and be ecstatic and say, okay, these are the automatic favorites going into the season. But I've kind of come to a realization. Super teams aren't the wave no more. Let's define a super team. Everybody has a different opinion on what a super team is. But if we look at the Wikipedia definition of a super team, this is what they say. There is no exact definition of a super team, and NBA fans disagree on what constitutes a super team. Some NBA fans define super teams by the talent on the roster, while others define them by the playoff success that they have. To me, a super team is a team with at least one superstar, and beside that superstar are also two very high-level all-stars. So by my definition, the Suns are technically a super team, but even with this team being formed, they don't feel like a super team. So does that mean that they are a super team or not? I don't know, but for the sake of this video, we will technically call them a super team. If you look at the last 5 champions, they have all had great depth with a star that is leading the way. And most of these teams were built through the draft, making proper decisions at great spots and maybe making one big trade that puts them over the top or a small trade that puts them over the top. The formula that we see was trying to put all the best players on one team isn't it. You have to look into money, fit, depth, etc. For example, the Suns fit this mold perfectly. Bradley Beal is on the second biggest contract in the NBA. You're pairing him with 2 other expensive guys that like having the ball in their hand a lot. Even though both of those guys can play without the ball, they're still going to need the ball in their hands every now and then. That's 3 guys that demand the ball. And you already didn't have any depth with the Kevin Durant trade, and now you lost even more depth with losing Chris Paul and Landry Shamet. They don't even have a point guard. We also have to take chemistry into play. At least the Suns are going to a full offseason, a full training camp. They're going to have a full season to get things right before the playoffs. But the last 5 championships, they were all familiar teams with chemistry. Maybe they had a couple of different pieces, but for the majority of them, everybody had been on those teams playing with each other. The Warriors, that core had been playing together for years. Jamal Murray and Jokic, all they know is Denver. The Bucks, dang near every team. When you have 3 high-level players, expectations rise heavily. The most recent NBA super team was the 2021 Nets, with James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving. And even though that was only 2 seasons ago, nobody from that super team is on the Nets now. Expectations rise, and when you fail to come to those expectations in a fast period of time, people see a problem, people get frustrated, and that's when things fall apart, especially when you have a bunch of superstars on your team. After this situation that went horribly wrong, you would think that GMs trying to build a super team would end, especially with how poorly the Nets situation was. It seemed like the most efficient way to compete for a championship was to find your superstar, find your guy, build a team through the right pieces. Not the big pieces, the right pieces. Bring those guys in to be around that superstar and competing in that fashion, but the Suns just did it again. Outside of the 17-19 Warriors, how many super teams actually became incredibly successful? People made points at Heat, but in my personal opinion, that Heat team wasn't as overpowered as people make it. Chris Bosh wasn't as good as he was in previous years. Dwayne Wade wasn't the same Dwayne Wade from years prior. He was slowly on that decline throughout those 4 years. The Spurs were just as talented, and the Heat, they even lost their first finals. And they were talking about winning not 1, not 2, not 3, but they only ended up winning 2 championships. They had everybody believing they were going to build a dynasty, but that's an argument for another day. A lot of people like to say that the 07 to 012 Boston Celtics were super teams with Rondo, KG, Paul Pierce, and those guys, but they only won 1 championship. So the super team path, it seems rare that teams win an incredible amount of championships. Now let's look at the ring of super teams. The 21 Nets, the 13 Lakers, the 04 Lakers. These are teams that didn't even win a ring for whatever reason. I mean, did Harden, KD, and Kyrie even make it to a playoff series? I can't remember. Somebody was always hurt. I just don't think the formula for building a championship level team is blindly piling all the top talent together on one team. I just think it's much more complex than that. And I feel like at this point, we've seen it fail so many times that it's common knowledge. If you ask the average NBA fan who their automatic favorites are for next year, as of right now, it's still the Nuggets, I feel like. With what we've seen in the past, nobody is scared of the Suns team. They have no depth, they have no point guard play. They even got a new coach coming in. But I will cut the Suns some slack. They didn't have to give up a first round pick. When the trade package is Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and a bunch of second round picks, it's hard to say no to that for an all-star in Bradley Beal. A lot of people forget how good Bradley Beal is. He's very good off the ball, a very good cutter, a very good mid-range scorer, and he's averaged an efficient 30 points per game too, twice. Hopefully they can get DeAndre Ayton out of there and try to replace him with a little bit of that depth. I do really want the Suns to win. I really want to see Devin Booker get him one. I wanted to see Chris Paul get one, but he's gone now. But I don't think this is the way to do it. Let me know who your way too early favorites are for next season. Let me know what you think about the Suns team. This offseason is about to be crazy. If you like lit basketball commentary, make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications for more. I appreciate you watching. Make sure you let me know what you think in the comments, man. Peace.